Donald Trump has always shown himself to be a tough man who is not afraid to speak his mind. As one of America's most prominent businessmen, as well as the nation's former president, it is logical that many people are attracted to the way he expresses himself and the actions he seeks to take with his comments. Even so, there are analysts and people working in the networking sector who were particularly concerned about what the man might say on his personal channels. By portraying himself as a person who does not seem to accept criticism or justified comments from the opposition, he has fallen into certain attitudes that may be uncomfortable and even threatening for certain sectors of the population. Why is former President Trump doing this? What is he looking for with such strong and volatile comments? Is he looking for a punch? Or is he simply looking to raise the mood, take advantage of the fact, and use that energy to his advantage? While we don't know what his short and long-term goals are, we know all the bans and even suspensions he's had to go through due to his hateful comments and derogatory sentiments towards certain sections of the American population. The man has had a lot of trouble with various social networks, including an indefinite ban on his Twitter account. That's exactly what brings us to today's topic. What will happen to Trump after Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter? Will his account be re-enabled, or will his ban be improved? Before we start with the video, we would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel. By clicking on the red bell next to the title, you will become part of this growing community. If you like to talk about finance, entrepreneurship, and the fortunes of the richest, you've come to the right place. Let's see what Trump has done with his Twitter account. Donald Trump has always been known for displaying a tough and even surly attitude on his social media. At the time, he was a businessman. He created his Twitter account 11 years ago, and although he was not very consistent with his posts at first, he gradually grew fond of the site and began to send increasingly harsh and bold tweets. Of course, he was just another US citizen giving his opinion on what was wrong in his country, so many people decided not to pay too much attention to his comments. Of course, on social media, there are always people with different points of view. Some we like and some we don't, and that's exactly what happened when Trump's account started to grow. Many sympathized with his comments and even retweeted them, but others spoke out against what the businessman said, which in turn gave him more and more reach, until he reached sectors he never imagined he would approach. Soon after, the businessman was quick to express his intentions to compete for a place in the 2016 presidential elections, and as the race progressed, his proposals and the messages of support from his followers increased. This, as the candidate began to attack certain sectors of the country's population so that his potential voters could test the veracity of his words. Soon, Latin American migrants closed in on his eradication target and one of his presidential aims. With the Mexican population being the most attacked, the businessman pronounced that they were only, quote, thieves who come into his country to harm the good people who live there. This hate speech, contrary to all expectations, paid off. President Donald Trump became the 45th president of the United States, and his voice, far from fading, grew louder. After taking office, the president continued to use his social media to spread his message and way of working, as he wanted voters to not only sympathize with his way of thinking, but to keep the channels open. He had to remain easy to reach, so that people felt they were dealing with a president who really cared about them. At the same time, Trump did not stop the messages denoting his irritation towards the Latin American community, but it seemed that the bitter hate campaign had been put on the back burner, giving way to other items on the now president's political agenda. Although his followers seemed to miss the impetus with which he posted on his networks, most understood why he needed to be a little more measured with his words. Or at least, they didn't express their displeasure too much. In itself, this period in the businessman's life went on with a series of ups and downs that sought to give his image greater stability, but all that took a 180-degree turn when another election year arrived. First, it was his complaints that voters didn't want to leave their homes because of the pandemic, and then he turned his attention to the issue of postal voting. Quote, there is no way, zero, that mail-in ballots will not be fraudulent. They will steal mailboxes, forge ballots, print them illegally, and sign them fraudulently. Gradually, the president began to toughen his remarks, but those messages left aside the issue of refugees and migrants to focus on a single goal: to prevent Joe Biden from winning and subsequently taking the presidency of the United States. But would he succeed? Before moving on to Trump, thank you for making it halfway through the video. As you know, your views and thumbs up help us reach other people interested in the topics we cover. So be sure to support us with those likes and recommend our content to others who, like you, enjoy talking about entrepreneurs. And speaking of networking failures, let's continue to look at what happened with Trump. The messages urging people to take action reached their peak in early 2021, when supporters of Donald Trump decided to storm the Capitol in order to prevent Joe Biden's victory from being declared against the candidate. The result of this unfortunate event? At least 5 dead, several wounded, and a mark that is still remembered with regret in this country. These results led to a whole series of sanctions against the former US president. His party vetoed him, and many of his networks and broadcasting channels were blocked as a result. In the case of Twitter, the platform first temporarily and then permanently suspended Trump's account. This was due to certain tweets in which the businessman justified the assault on the Capitol, in addition to his refusal to attend Biden's inauguration. Quote, "After a thorough review of recent tweets from the @RealDonaldTrump account and the context surrounding them, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement to violence," Twitter said in a statement posted on its official blog. That was the point of no return for the businessman, as Twitter has since maintained its position of not disclosing the man's account. Of course, the platform's decision did not take long to initiate a whole series of disparaging comments towards the network on his part. The president said that Twitter, quote, "has gone further and further when it comes to banning free speech," and accused them of having, quote, "coordinated with the Democrats and the radical left to delete his account." Whether this is true, only they know. What we do know is that, with Elon Musk's current purchase plans, this situation could change again. Although Elon has not said anything about the entrepreneur's case, it is known that the tycoon is a faithful defender of freedom of expression, who is tired of many social networks censoring the opinions of certain sectors of the population. Seeing this fact, since he announced the purchase of Twitter by the subject, many congressmen, senators, and personalities from the political sector have celebrated his stance of allowing information to flow freely through the platform. Not so Donald Trump, who, in recent interviews, has said he prefers to focus on his new outreach platform, Truth Social. Quote, "I'm not going to get on Twitter. I'm going to stay on Truth," Trump told Fox News. "I hope Elon buys Twitter because he'll make it better and he's a good man, but I'm going to stay on Truth." As far as is known, Elon is not a supporter of either Biden or Trump, so it may be that his priority is not to release the businessman's accounts. Still, if his idea is to give equality and freedom to the opinions of all users, he will certainly take action when the Twitter buyout becomes a reality. And we have reached the end of this video. With all the data we were able to observe about Donald Trump, we can say that the businessman still has several control issues that he must take into account if he wants to return to Twitter. Although many of his followers are upside down, and some of Musk's followers think he will remove the veto as soon as the purchase of the network is completed, others comment that his blocking will continue, with or without the purchase. As far as we know, Musk's goal is to allow more people to express themselves within the Bluebird network. But will he lift Trump's block on his account? Is he interested in the entrepreneur continuing to spread such harsh messages? Leave your comments on the topic, and don't forget to send in your suggestions for future videos. We read them. Thank you very much for watching the full video. Subscribe and don't forget to leave your like. See you next time!